Money is not going to buy your way out. You cannot go anywhere and say, I'm going to put a check for $5 billion for all these voices to suddenly disappear. It's not gonna happen. You cannot go to a psychologist. You cannot go to a psychotherapist. Says, I don't have time to spend with you. However, I have money. I'm going to wire you, let's say $10 million, and all I want you to do in exchange for that wire transfer is to press a button for all these negative memories, for all this trauma, for all these crazy people trying to drag me down, for the voices to simply disappear. This is not going to happen. Why? Because money will simply show its limitations. Someone asked me the question, why do you keep talking so much about identity? Why can't you be like other coaches out there? Why can't you teach people how to make 10K on a monthly basis, how to make 20, 50K on a monthly basis? Why can't you talk about something practical like the rest of the coaches? Why do you have to stand out? It was a very heavy question. Why do I love to talk so much about identity? And why does identity matter so much when it comes to a modern woman, a modern man who's trying to make it in this 21st century? This is exactly what I would like to discuss in this video. All right? Dimitri here. Let's get right into it. Very good question indeed, right? Why not talk about money? Because at the end of the day, Solomon said it, money answers all things. It answers all things. That's what he said. And Solomon was quite a wise person, by all accounts. But here's the funny thing. Solomon said that in the book of Ecclesiastes, and before him, there was a gentleman who happened to be his father, who said the following. Yes, something to the tune, he feels sorry for the man who put his trust in the wealth, for the man or the woman who boast about their wealth. Because with all the wealth, with all the money you can make, you cannot come to a place where you can redeem your brother or redeem your sister. A very interesting statement, because on one hand the son says money answers all things. You can buy anything you want. You can buy people, you can buy things, you can buy all things. On the other, the father says no. Yeah, you can boast about your money, you can boast about what, but your money cannot buy the brother that needs to be redeemed. Which is quite interesting, because when we look at it really closely, you're going to see that yes, indeed, money has certain limitations. Money cannot buy everything. And as a matter of fact, if I have to remain practical without trying to sound too philosophical or theologian, I'm just going to use a basic example. In 1979 and 79 or beginning 1980, I believe it was 1980, yes. This young man, Bob Marley, came back from Zimbabwe, where he was there to perform for the independence of this country that was going from being called Rhodesia to now being called Zimbabwe. And for the independence, they had sent a couple people to Kingston, Jamaica, more specifically at 56 Hope Road, where Bob Marley used to stay at the time. They say, Mr. Bob Marley, we would like to invite you to our Independence Day, but just know that we don't have the money to buy your way to Zimbabwe, but we'd like for you to consider this. And first of all, they asked him how much it will cost. He gave them the price. Oh no, way too much money, way too much money. We just came from years of war and we don't have money to put on the table when it comes to your fees. But we seriously would like for you to come, because keep in mind that when we're fighting for independence, all the fighters in the bush, in the trenches, they used to listen to a particular song. They used to give them the strength to keep on going. And that song was called Zimbabwe. And the author of the song happens to be you. So it'll be absolutely amazing. It'll be more than significant for us to have you, for us to host you when it comes to this grand day where we're going to be switching from Rhodesia to a new name, Zimbabwe. So Bob Marley simply say, I'm honored, I'm flattered, and let me just think about it. As a matter of fact, I won't think about it. Just know that I'm going to come, I'm going to bring my people, and we're going to perform. Chris Blackwell, his manager at the time, simply said, no, Bob Marley, let's talk about it. Let's go to the kitchen, we can talk about this. This is a lot of money that you can spend when it comes to shipping all the instruments all the way from London, England to Africa. Plus, the ticket for all the musicians are going to be coming with you, plus the food and the hotel stay. That's way too much. Please don't do that. Bob Marley said, yeah, that's it, I'm going to go. So he went, short of the story, he went and he came back. After that, he was now set to perform for the very first time at the Madison Square Garden, a very beautiful event. He performed very well. He was there to open up for the Commodores. He did such an amazing job that the people were completely shocked. They said, but where was this guy? How come we have never heard of this guy's music before? So while he was celebrating, the day after, he was just jogging, in Central Park, something crazy happened. As he was jogging, he lost consciousness and he fell down, and as he got up, he was foaming at the mouth and he started doing something completely crazy. His friends, his entourage that was with him was shocked. So they decided to rush him to the hospital to get more result as to what exactly caused this to happen in the first place. They did that, and the result came. Bob Marley was in the advanced stages of a toe cancer that was now spreading all over the place. He didn't have much time left to live, and he had to, unfortunately, cut short the tour that he was planning as far as the rest of America is concerned. From that point, he only performed one more concert, and that was the end of his touring of America as far as Bob Marley is concerned. Just to speed up the story, he goes to different doctors and nobody can save him, and they say to him, there's one good doctor, but it costs lots of money. It's in Germany. If you go there, he can try to do something. He goes there and spends as much money as possible, and nothing happens. In the latter days of this journey, he understands that there is nothing that he can do as far as this is concerned. This is a one-way journey. So he travels from Germany all the way to Miami, where he spent a few hours, and his family comes there. And as his kids come there, here's what he says to them. Money has its limits. Money cannot buy everything, because my money did not allow for me to buy my way out of this cancer. And a few days after that, he passed away in May 1981, and the rest is history. That was just one example to show that money has its limitation. But why I'm also talking about the understatement that was made by the father of Solomon, to say that you can boast about your wealth, but your wealth cannot redeem the brother, cannot redeem the sister that is in your company that needs to be redeemed. Let me just give a more practical example. In every man, as I was saying, there is a crowd. There is a crowd of voices that's lodged in your head. Those voices came into your head during the formative years of your life. The people that spoke life over you so vividly that they became the mentors, the partners, the investors that gave you the boost that you were so looking for, and that started pulling you up, causing you to keep your head up and keep your elbows up, no matter what, to be reaching up, because there's something better coming as far as you are concerned. That's the first place. But there's also a second place. There's also a second crowd that happens to be alive in some people, and that's the crowd of critics. When you were growing up, you had a bunch of teachers, you had a bunch of friends, you had a bunch of family members who didn't quite like you and spoke not life over you, but spoke negative stuff over your life, and spoke and did some crazy thing to you. So you internalized the message, and because the message became the loudest and the most vivid colors as far as your young brain is concerned. You start now letting those voices become the most vocal people within the crowd in you. So these voices are now dragging you places that you don't want to go. And your money, unfortunately, cannot redeem you from this crowd of people trying to drag you places you don't want to go. Money is not going to buy your way out. You cannot go anywhere and say, I'm going to put a check for $5 billion for all these voices to suddenly disappear. It's not going to happen. You cannot go to a psychologist. You cannot go to a psychotherapist says, I don't have time to spend with you. However, I have money. I'm going to wire you, let's say $10 million, and all I want you to do in exchange for that wire transfer is to press a button for all these negative memories, for all this trauma, for all these crazy people trying to drag me down, for the voices to simply disappear. This is not going to happen. Why? Because money will simply show its limitations. And the other thing about money is that money as a tool or a measure of exchange between people has also a tendency to magnify all the stories that you are hiding within you, that you believe nobody's seeing. You believe that nobody can actually see what I've gone through. But with money, money will have a tendency to act like a magnifying glass. It will then expose in the eyes of everyone around you that, yeah, this is precisely what happened to so-and-so when they were growing up. All of a sudden, people start having glimpses of what it is you could have gone through when you were growing up. How? Simply because money will cause you to make certain choices that will simply let people know exactly where you're coming from. And this is really key. This is the reason why I rather focus first of all on the question of identity as opposed to the practical, as people put it, the practical question of, let's go make let's focus first on the hard drive. If you can focus on the hard drive, you can rewire the hard drive, my friend, everything will be easier, because this body is a special computer and it's actually connected to a super hard drive, and that hard drive from time to time needs to be rewired. As you rewire this hard drive, it's simply going to cause you now to do something that I specialize in, which is to re-engineer your potential. From that point, you're simply going to become unstoppable. So again, money may answer all things, but money has its limitation, because money cannot redeem the brother within, cannot redeem the sister within, who's simply bound by all the negative voices from the past trying to drag the brother down or try to drag the sister down. That was just one thing. Second thing is, some people will simply say, I hear you, I may have traumas as far as my early childhood is concerned, but there is a way out, and the way out for me is to simply go and get as much education as possible. Go and get as many degrees as possible. Go and add as many letters as possible behind my name. I'm going to be MS, I'm going to be MBA, I'm going to be LMB, whatever, PhD. I'm going to add as many letters as possible in the hope that with all these letters, I'm going to become somebody. And because I'm going to be somebody, all these traumatic stories, all these voices I'm hearing in my head are simply going to diminish, are going to simply disappear. I'm not going to see them anymore. Here's the funny thing. But I won't spend too much on this one. Your education will go up, but your education will do something. If money will magnify in the eyes of people the stories, the dramas you've actually gone through, education has a tendency to simply amplify. It will simply amplify. It will simply increase the volume when it comes to the stories you hear within your head. It will simply increase. You will think that these stories nobody can hear, but my goodness, through education, people don't come to see, oh my goodness, I can see the way the students was acting, that something must have happened as far as the childhood is concerned. And I'm gonna just park this for now. Let's just go back to our presentation. Again, Money magnifies everything. It will cause everybody to see exactly what's missing. Education will tend to amplify all these untold and hidden stories that you're trying to bury under the pile of letters that education can provide to you. So now, where do we go from here? Let me just give a story. February 24th, 1955, somewhere in America, was born a young boy. This young boy had quite a start as far as life is concerned. When the mother found out that she was pregnant, she rushed to her partner. She rushed to the one she was seeing as a potential fiance. She went to him and said, "My friend, I believe there's something good I need to share with you." And he asked, "What is it?" She said, "I think we are expecting." And she smiled. But she noticed that the gentleman didn't smile back. And she asked him, "What's wrong?" He says, "That's a good news as far as you are concerned. But I'm going to be blunt as far as this particular thing is concerned. We may have our moment as far as the romance is concerned. But as far as the two of us, as far as this entity, as far as this unit is concerned, the two of us being an item, I've come to the conclusion there is no future. You may have come to my country, where I come from. You may have spent time with my family back home. I may also have fallen in love with you. But when it comes to the practicality of being together, I don't see the two of us going anywhere. So therefore, I'm going to have to break it down to you. We are not expecting. You are expecting. In other words, I don't want to have anything to do with this child. So if anything, I'm going to kindly ask you to simply get rid of this pregnancy." She was shocked. She went home and she spoke to her dad. And she told her dad what happened. The dad simply said, "I heard you, young girl. Yeah, I think there's also a place for us to be practical. Unfortunately, you cannot keep the child. I'm not going to ask you to get rid of the child, but I'm simply going to ask you to consider another alternative, which is simply adoption." So after a lot of back and forth, she agreed finally that yes, the child was not welcomed by the father, was not welcomed by the grandpa, so it was time to look for another alternative. So she started looking for an adoption agency, and she found one, and she explained the situation to them, and they agreed to find a family for that child. Her stipulation was that they must have some post-secondary education, and they must have a stable environment as far as the economic means are concerned. And the gentleman simply said, "Yes, I think I found the perfect couple for you. As a matter of fact, one of them is a lawyer and is doing pretty well. So this is going to be a match made in heaven." The child was born. They rushed the child to the family. They welcomed the child into the home. The door is closed. And as the gentleman started leaving, they look at the gender of the child and they realize, "Oh my goodness, it is not a girl, it's a boy. Oh my goodness, what a crime." So they call the gentleman back. They say, "No, please come back quickly." So they call the gentleman back. The gentleman comes back and takes the child and decides to take the child to a different family. Because of course the mother said, "I cannot keep the child." But as they are going out through the second family, they realized that the second family did not meet one of the requirements as far as stipulation were concerned. They did not have any college education. So the mother now says, "I'm going to put this thing on hold. I don't think I'm going to sign the adoption papers." And things are in limbo now. So for a few months, the child is basically in between two worlds, the new family and her family of origin. Eventually, she says, "Yes, I'm going to sign the papers." But by the time the child starts growing, the child had somehow internalized all the drama, all the traumas that were happening around him while he was still conceived, when he was still in the mother's womb. Because he was somehow internalized that yes, my biological father did not want me. My biological grandpa did not want to keep me. The first family did not want to keep me. So basically, I was rejected 3 times before I was even able to say a word to the world. So the world did basically reject me before I was even able to make any contribution. What kind of interest is this? But as things will have it, This gentleman grew up, was able to finish his high school education, and from that point, he decided to go to college, and he stayed there only for a few months, and after that, he decided to drop out. He started working for a company known as Atari, but after a few months, he decided, yes, he wants to take a sabbatical. He wants to go to India to do some meditation, to attend to his inner self. He does that, and when he comes back in 1976, he gets together with his buddy by the name of Steve as well, and the other Steve says, my goodness, I think I am onto something. I put together something that's going to be a revolution as far as the world of technology is concerned. It's going to be a personal computer. The two brains get together. The one Steve that just came back from India says, don't worry about it. I'm going to be the salesman as far as this thing is concerned. You focus on the hardware. And they say, but we have to secure some funding. So Steve, the first one, said, I'm going to go to my former job, my former boss by the name of Nolan Bushnell, who happens to be the CEO of Atari. I'm going to talk to him and see if he can decide to join us. They go talk to Nolan Bushnell. Nolan Bushnell said, but my goodness, this is crazy. You are barely, as a matter of fact, 21. You have no college education. You are a dropout. You used to work for me, and to make things even worse, when you used to work for me, you used to be a problem because you will come to work smelling because you will not put any deodorant. It was so bad that we had to assign you to work overnight because you could not work with everybody else. But you are the same person who has now the audacity to come to me with a business idea. He said, ha 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 ha, I will pass. I will turn it down. The two Steve were disappointed but not dejected. So they went back home, and the first Steve simply said, don't worry about it, we're going to still find someone. They found someone who believed in their ideas, and the three of them went on to put together something, a company that came to be known in the book of history as Apple. As Apple is growing, at one point between 1976 and 1983, they realized that things were actually moving at the speed of light. They needed to start making some critical decisions when it comes to how to run the operation. So Steve, the first one, Steve Jobs, says, how about we go looking for a CEO? And eventually they found a CEO in 1983. A CEO by the name of Mr. Scully, I believe John Scully. He comes on board. He becomes the CEO of the company, and Steve Jobs is still a member of the board of directors. But because Steve Jobs was still dealing with so many negative stories, so many drama, it was extremely disruptive as far as the operation are concerned. Number one. Number two, he also became a disruptive force as far as the board of directors is concerned, to the point where at one point there was now a confrontation between the CEO that he had helped hire and now Steve Jobs. The CEO said, no, you are working, you are coming to work to do your work, but there seems to be a negative story that brings you down. You're acting like someone's trying to self-sabotage and cause the whole ship to sink. I can't afford for this to happen, so someone needs to go. Unfortunately, we as a board, we're going to simply ask you to leave. 1985, Steve Jobs is fired because his behavior was disruptive. The negative story in the back of his head was so disruptive that he never was able to work with people. From that point, 1985, he decided to go on to do something else. 1986, he found an opportunity, because he realized that, yes, this was a wake-up call. My goodness, my identity, the story within my head that I never actually dealt with, money was not able to redeem me. Money was not able to buy my way out of these negative stories. I need to find a way out of this. So he goes on and he found a perfect opportunity to buy a company in 1986 for about $5 million. He was able to acquire 70% of this company that came to be known as Pixar. So he takes Pixar from where it was in 1986 all the way to 1996, is now doing something phenomenal with Pixar, to the point where by the time he left Pixar, he was called back to work now for Apple again. Pixar became one of the major contenders in the world of entertainment. But here's the funny thing. So while this young man was still dealing with all the demons, with all the negative voices in his head, saying to him, you can never amount to much because you were rejected 3 times before you were born. You are basically a nobody. And he was trying to simply quiet all these voices by training himself in the work, by making as much money as possible. But that wasn't really working. He simply had a wake-up call in 1986 When he realized that yes, despite the fact he was one of the co-founders, he was kicked out. And from that point, he took now his job more seriously, and he became now a more different person when it comes to how to work with people. And by the time he came back to Apple in 1996, he was a different person. How do we know that? Because within less than 5 years, he was able to help Apple go from where the troubled waters it was to becoming now one of the top contenders as far as the world of technology is concerned. Well, how do you know that? Because in 2001, less than 5 years later, he was able to help Apple launch a key product known as iPod. And if that were not enough, 6 years later, the same gentleman, as a matter of fact, let's just slow down. 5 years later, he decided now to sell Pixar now to this company known as Disney for quite a huge amount. He bought it for $5 million. He was now able to sell it now in 2006 for a huge amount, for close to $7.4 billion, and that was in 2006. And a year later, this same gentleman decided now to launch a new technology, which at the time people laughed at and said, but what kind of craziness is this? He said the future of phone is basically something that you can use for entertainment as well as for work. So something that can be a mix between iPod and BlackBerry, a mix between iPod and all this smartphone, but something completely new. When the phone was launched in 2007, only the fanatics saw potential as far as this phone is concerned. But by the time this phone took off, we realized that it was onto something. This guy was simply a genius. But why am I using his example as far as negative stories and how they can compromise our ability to function well as far as society is concerned? Perfect example. The iPod was launched in 2001 and iPhone was launched in 2007. I keep saying to myself, if Steve Jobs was more amenable, he was more able to work with people, he would have stayed with Apple in 1986. And this technology of iPod, this technology of iPhone would have been given to us. Not in 2001, not in 2007, but maybe in 1991 and 1997. So all this invention was simply delayed. Because someone was simply dealing with something that was crippling the man within. And this is precisely why the story within is something that you have to deal with as you are looking for money. The story within is something that you have to prioritize as you seek education. Because if you only focus on education, it will, my friend, it will simply amplify the fact that there's something missing. That's number one. If you only focus on money, it will simply magnify the fact that yes, something happened when you were growing up. And the best thing to actually do is seek education, seek money, but at the same time find a way to deal with whatever stories that you have simply gone through that causing you to behave in one particular way. I'm going to stop. Much love, everyone. The best is yet to come. I'm out.